Man of Steel versus Superman. And I'm not talking about the Christopher Reeve Superman, even though it very well should be a part of the conversation. But I'm talking about the 2025 Superman since it's the most recent, and Man of Steel is the most recent last Superman movie. And I've seen the debates. I feel like it's been even more extreme than just debates. People are damn near arguing online on whether or not Superman, the new movie, is as good or better than Man of Steel. You still have your Man of Steel lovers, you still have your Zack Snyder lovers, and they won't quit on this Snyder universe that I think is dead and gone. But hey, who knows? Warner Brothers did it once before, so the fans have every right to think that it could happen one more time. Now, I figured the best way to try to talk through this and figure it out in a semi objective way. I mean, it's still my opinion, so I guess it's a little more subjective, but I'm trying to be fair when it comes to this, breaking this down. Let's talk about the directors of each movie. Zack Snyder, the director of Man of Steel, versus James Gunn, the director of Superman. Who's the better director? Personally, I like Zack Snyder's directing. I mean, I don't love all Zack Snyder's movies, right? But I think cinematography wise, I think the way Zack Snyder's films are shot, the way they look, the colors, or maybe the muted colors, but sometimes that can create great images, great memorable scenes that stand out in my brain. James Gunn, though, he's not afraid of the colors. He's not afraid of being a little more in your face, a little more bombastic, a little more true to the comics, honestly. I know some people, because of Man of Steel, think that all superhero movies should be that muted and that dark in color. But I'm more in the James Gunn camp of like, not everything has to be either dark or serious. Like, things can be a little brighter, things can be a little more colorful and a little more happy and full of hope. I don't think everything all has to be one thing. And when it comes down to their filmography, just in general, James Gunn's movies, I think, are better. Let's talk about the actors that played Superman. Henry Cavill versus David Corenswet. Now, Henry Cavill, you're going to have your people that will love Henry Cavill regardless. And I'm somebody that loves a lot of things about Henry Cavill as Superman. I think his look is tremendous. I think he's a good looking guy. I think he has a certain amount of charm. He clearly doesn't have to try too hard. He doesn't have to do a whole lot because of just how well he fills the costume, how much presence he has just from walking into a scene. I agree with all of that, but I don't think he was given the opportunity or the chance to show his range, to show the personality, to show the charisma, and show what Superman can be, what his Superman can be. I'm not saying he's not capable of it, period. I just don't think he was able and given the chance to show that side to him. David Corenswet is given that chance to be very well versed, well rounded. He has moments of being sad and lonely or conflicted with his mission or who he's supposed to be in life. And then he also has his hopeful moments and his moments where he is funny or charming. He's not too goofy, which is what I was nervous about initially. I think he has just enough personality to where I feel like I understand that guy's point of view. I understand where that Superman is coming from, where he grew up, where he came from, and his values. Let's talk about Lois Lane. This is a very important role in a Superman movie. Amy Adams played Lois Lane in Man of Steel, and I love Amy Adams. I mean, she's one of my favorite actresses. And when she first got cast, I said, fuck yeah, Amy Adams, that's awesome. I'm all about it. But once again, I don't think Amy Adams was given enough. I mean, as Lois, like on her own, I do enjoy what she does in Man of Steel, how she does investigate the mystery of this Superman. She is tracking him down. She's chasing the story, interviewing people, talking to people, chasing leads, and she's able to figure out Superman's secret. Like, she does that on her own. I love that aspect of her character. It's the romance part of the Lois character, her falling in love with Clark Kent or Superman. I never really bought it in Man of Steel. It just sort of seems to happen because because it's supposed to happen. You never quite see the moment where you're like, "Oh, this is where they fall in love." It just kind of happens. Rachel Brosnahan, I think, is able to do a lot with the Lois character. I'm talking about her being a journalist, her being a reporter, her being smart and intelligent and investigating just the same. Everything that I was talking about previous, but also seeing her figure everything out, figure out what Lex was up to, figure all that out was vital and important to the movie itself. She helps Superman expose Lex, but also you see a lot of her and Clark, Superman, as a couple, and it's the beginnings of their relationship. So you're still seeing Lois try to figure out her feelings for Superman. She's trying to figure out if this is something that can work and will work, or are they going to butt heads too much. I'm going to have to, reluctantly, only because I love Amy Adams, I'm going to have to give this to Rachel Brosnahan. The villains. The villains is very important because you could argue they're just as much in your face on screen as the hero. You had General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, in Man of Steel, and how can you complain about what we got from General Zod? We're talking about having to inherit this role from Terrence Stamp, who made this character infamous with his kneel before Zod lines. I mean, people remember that Zod says that, even though Michael Shannon never says that in Man of Steel, but it's something that you still take with you and that still goes with you. I think Michael Shannon was able to take this role and make it his own. He had his own level of, because he's a general, because he's more military, he had this controlled anger throughout the entire movie. I believe you only see him enraged and angry at a level where it's scary, maybe twice in the entire film, and it makes those moments stand out. And him going toe to toe, fighting Superman one on one, that end battle, I know people complain about the level of destruction and the amount of people that die, and I do get it. I do feel a lot of that as well. Those two characters fighting in Man of Steel was something at that time that I had never seen before. That level of Superman alien fighting that was like, man, we finally got there. And I thought that was great. Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult. I think Nicholas Hoult did a tremendous job as Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor is not a character that's always done well and always understood, I think, by the filmmakers. I mean, we're not going to talk about Jesse Eisenberg because that's BVS, but you have to realize and remember just how easily somebody can take that character and what I feel misunderstand what that character is supposed to be like, or what the best versions of a Lex Luthor is like. And I think this movie, Nicholas Hoult, establishes how much his obsession with Superman fucks everything up for him, fucks up the way he acts, fucks up his business, fucks up his emotions. He's not in control of how egotistical he is, that everyone else on the planet is paying attention to anyone else but him. And also we have to bring up the alien nature of why Lex doesn't trust Superman. He's not human. He's not one of us. As far as who the better villain is, I'm going to give the slight edge to General Zod. Let's talk about the supporting villains. Faora and Non. I mean, technically Non is not named, but we're just going to call him that because he's a big hulking Kryptonian dude that Superman fights along with Faora. But Faora especially, that actress took a role that's really a nothing role, that really is just there to be the henchwoman to General Zod, and she owned it. She made it memorable. You have like a little small fan base of people who love the Faora character because of what she brought to it, because of how much of a badass she was, and the few lines that she has. Let's jump to the engineer and Ultraman, who is in Superman. And the engineer, I don't think had as many standout moments. She had one moment where she mentions to Lex that she sacrificed her life in order to become this computerized weapon that she is, and she has some cool fights with Superman. She's able to do some things as far as putting like nanoites into Superman's body, and that all that was freaky and weird. Ultraman, there might be some people who was like shocked by the reveal of that, but because I'm aware of Ultraman, I was watching the whole time expecting that reveal, and so it didn't do a whole lot for me. I honestly think, and this is probably surprising, I'm going to give it to Feora. I know Nan's there and he's just a mass, like, brooding type dude that's just there to fight, but Feora by herself, it was more interesting than I think the other two. Perry White, who is in both movies, and so I feel like comparing them is a must. Lawrence Fishburne plays Perry White in Man of Steel, and I'm just gonna say it right now because look, I like Wendell Pierce. I like great casting, and I think we have more room in future movies to do more with his version of Perry White. But even just given the first two films, if you're comparing this to Man of Steel, Lawrence Fishburne has this level of presence, this level of authority. He feels like a boss that like means business, but also has like he does care about Lois and Clark at the end of the day, even though he comes across as a hard ass, as opposed to, I will admit, some of the side characters from the Daily Planet in the new movie just felt like they were there just to be there. Now, I admit this is a little unfair, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we have the supporting cast, and at least the supporting cast that we haven't talked about yet. So in Man of Steel, you have Jenny. I mentioned her. It's conflicting reports on whether or not Jenny is the female Jimmy Olsen. I guess they never say her last name, but she is just another reporter who's at the Daily Planet, who's just there, just to be there. Maybe they had more plans for her if they made standalone Superman sequels, but they didn't. So she's there, and I think she has like one or two scenes in BVS. I don't remember. And there's also the character Steve, who's played by an actor that I very much like, and I liked a couple moments that he had. But when you jump over to Superman 2025, and you have the Justice Gang, when you have Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific, it's no competition. Obviously, the Justice Gang is going to take the win here. This is a little interesting because we have the character Jor-El. Once again, maybe a little unfair because Russell Crowe gets a hell of a lot more to do in Man of Steel as Jor-El. He gets a whole sequence, almost like a first act of what many people would say is an interesting own movie of Jor-El not only dealing with Zod and getting him locked away in prison, but dealing with the destruction of Krypton. And I know this is ground that we've covered in the 1978 movie with Marlon Brando, but I think not only does Russell Crowe make this his own, make this character his own, but as much as we got with him, the little action beats that we do get with him, and then him sending Clark off, Kal-El off, and then being able to have Russell Crowe throughout the rest of the movie as this AI thing, but he's physically like in the room, or at least a hologram version of him interacting with even Lois or interacting with other characters that I thought was unique, I thought was cool. And we got to see the moment where he talks to Clark in person and explains the Kryptonian history to him. That was great. Now, Bradley Cooper plays Jor-El and Superman, and it's a little random. Like when Bradley Cooper pops up on screen, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's Bradley Cooper. You know, like I'm kind of taken out of it. I mean, granted, I am reminded, of course, that Russell Crowe is Russell Crowe. But it's just, Bradley Cooper gets the one scene. The only great thing I can say about it is that they do a twist with the Jor-El character in Superman 2025 that I think was bold and great, and something that I commend James Gunn for doing, because I'm like, fuck yeah, this is something that is fresh and only stuff that I've seen touched upon before. And you could argue that we should have spent more time with it in the new movie, but I at least appreciated that they went for that angle. Overall, though, I am going to give the win to Russell Crowe because it's just, come on, you know, screen time alone, it's not fair. Now, Jonathan Kent. Let's talk about the human father of Clark Kent. So, Kevin Costner plays Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, and for years, over a decade now, I've talked about how much I do not like Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent. I mean, Kevin Costner's a great actor, so it's not him. I'm not even saying his scenes are acted bad or his scenes are bad. Like, they're not. I think he does a good job in the role. I just hate the way Jonathan Kent is written in Man of Steel. I don't like the conversations he has with Clark where he's telling him not to save people, to be wary, because I get it. They're afraid of the government or anybody finding out about him and taking him away and experimenting on him. Like, all of that makes sense. All of that is, like, the case. But to tell him that, like, oh, that bus full of kids should have died because you risked too much saving them. To me, that just felt like something Jonathan Kent would not say. And I can't go without talking about how dumb the death scene of Jonathan Kent is. Not only changing it to a tornado, but having it to where, like, Clark easily could have saved him, and Jonathan tells him not to. It's like, that's bullshit. I don't buy that Clark as a teenager would just not save him, would give a fuck about anyone else. Like, that scene always rubs me the wrong way. Even when people try to defend it, I just can't. I can't, and I've never gone along with it. Pruitt Taylor Vince plays Jonathan Kent in the new movie, and we don't get a whole lot of the Kents. Like, they're there for a couple scenes, and I think they establish well what his upbringing would have been like. And there's one scene in particular between Jonathan and Clark that is really good, that is emotional, that is impactful in the right way. But I still don't think we got enough to fully be like, okay, I rock with this Jonathan Kent more so than anyone else. Maybe I'm a little spoiled because of how good John Schneider played him on Smallville. That, like, for me, that will always be the definitive Jonathan Kent. But because I dislike what they did in Man of Steel, I'm going to have to give the win to Pruitt Taylor Vince. Last but certainly not least, we are going to compare the scores. And man, oh man, is this tough, because the scores of really both movies are great. I love how Superman 2025 is basically taking the John Williams score and doing a punk rock version of it, right? Doing a metal version of it, doing a new version with a twist that is recognizable, that feels right. When you hear it, you're like, fuck yeah, this is Superman, but it also feels modern, it also feels up to date, it also feels current. And I think that's the right way to do it. Not like Superman Returns, where they just reused the same John Williams score, so it just felt like a rehash or nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. This took it with a twist. However, Hans Zimmer with the Man of Steel theme is epic in a way to where it's like, okay, you're trying to follow up on John Williams, so what do? You make something completely different, like something that's not even similar, not even close. And I think between the slow build to the huge, bombastic, hearing that theme, that score, when Superman first flies for the first time, it hits me. I hear it and I go like, fuck yeah, man, this is a Superman score. This is a Superman theme. To do something completely different from John Williams and to make it just as good, I think, or just as good for me, that's tough. And so I'm going to give this win to Hans Zimmer, man. I know John Murphy did a good job in the new one, but Hans Zimmer takes the cake. So we are going to compare, and ultimately, I guess Superman 2025 wins, right? They won director, they won actor, they won actress, they won side supporting characters, they won Jonathan Kent. Look, Man of Steel won plenty. And it's a lot closer than I think people would even realize. I'm sure people disagree. I'm sure people will say that the way I went about this was bullshit and that Man of Steel is still the winner, and that's fine. Let's talk about it, but let's be friendly. Let's be nice. What do you guys think is the better of the two? Man of Steel or Superman 2025? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!